Welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Outsiders Set of Six, our weekly news show where we share the good, the great and the noteworthy of Rugby League outside the heartlands. My name's Craig.
And my name's Karl, and on this week's episode we'll be having a French Rugby League update. We'll be talking directly to Goole Vikings as they prepare for life in League One, and England are ready for the Ashes.
Right, as always, we've got a packed show, got loads to get through, so let's get straight into it. First of all, Karl, you set the task of rating the England players from the international game at the weekend.
Yes, we were there, weren't we? England v Samoa. What a game it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was a great end to the season. But yeah, getting straight into the player ratings, start at the fullback. Number one, Jack Welsby. I've given him a 6. I don't think he had the strongest game. It was very lateral when going forward. He didn't really seem to break through. He did set Herbie Farnworth up for a great try, but I thought his position play was a little bit off, especially when Samoa scored that first try. He was too wide when they kicked it through, and he didn't pass when he made a breakthrough, and that's criminal in international rugby. I mean, England were lucky. We were already kind of had the game in the bag at that point.
He did do a couple of great things in defence, but my kind of I agree, and I think lots of people on social media kind of agree with what you're saying here. But who else would replace him? Like, we're just short of international level fullbacks at the minute. I'm just wondering who you would see as a potential replacement.
No, I do think he probably is the best fullback in Super League, so I wouldn't go out there and say that he needs replacing. I'm just saying he didn't have a great game this weekend.
Well, the best English fullback in Super League.
Yeah, I think he probably is the best. Yeah, he is the best English fullback in Super League. Yeah, just made some poor decisions, I think.
So, agree with that. 6 for Jack Welsby. Next.
Matty Ashton, I've given him an 8. Could have given him a 9. I thought he looked dangerous every time he touched the ball. He did hesitate on one of the, I think when George Williams put a kick through into the corner, he could have just dived straight on that and scored. He'd have got a 9 but he did hesitate a little bit on that. Other than that, he looked dangerous every time he touched the ball. His speed was to burn on it. Yeah, great solid performance from him. Harry Newman, 8, also 8. Seems to have his best sort of game when he's playing for an England side, especially when he's playing at Headingley. I thought he was very strong. Better than I've seen him play all year for Leeds. Thought he was great. Really had a good game.
Yeah, it was typical one. It was like almost commentator's curse. I was just having a chat with the guy next to me and was sort of saying, he's not really performed very well this year, like Harry Newman. And then next thing, he just pulls out an absolute belting tackle. You know what I mean? And and went on to have a great game. So I completely agree with that.
It was strong in defence. He did miss one tackle on the right edge, but yeah, he was pretty solid in defence. And every time he took the ball forward, he sort of seemed to step back on the inside, and he looked dangerous. Looked like he could score. Yeah, I thought he had a great game. Herbie Farnworth, the player of the tournament, without doubt. This guy is absolute class. I've given him a 10. That's the highest rating you could give. You're surely not going to disagree with me on that one.
No, I don't disagree. I thought it was brilliant. Great to watch. Absolute delight to watch.
The only thing with Herbie Farnworth is it's just such a shame that he's playing in the NRL and we don't get to watch him week in, week out. Because, he's one of the best centres in the world at the minute. I'll quickly move on. Everybody knows. Liam Marshall, the guy we sort of said in our preview to game 1 that he should have been playing, top try scorer in Super League. He didn't let us down. He got on that field. It was great, wasn't he? Great try.
It was great. We were like, we'd had a bit, we got a bit of stick, didn't we? Yeah, we got a bit of stick when we kind of said that, Liam Marshall could be in the team, and so when he came on, we was like, right, come on, Liam, don't let us down, and then very, very quickly scored a great try. So fair play, well done.
I've given him an 8. Thought he had a solid performance, didn't do anything wrong. He was good in defence, good in attack, and yeah, again, England. To be fair, England's edges on both sides of the field, with Williams and Smith orchestrating things as they did, we looked so dangerous, I thought, on the edges, and that's something you've not really been able to say about England for quite a lot of years. We've always been really good in the forwards, but now our edges just look so dangerous, and she's mouth-watering. I can't wait until the Aussies rock up next year. Right, onto the halfback pair, and then George Williams again a 9, Harry Smith an 8. Look, these two complement each other perfectly. Sean Wayne's got it right, aren't they? I think a lot of us were calling for Mikey Lewis to be starting, which is a shame because he's had such a great season. But these two didn't let us down. I thought they pulled the strings all day, and they complement each other perfectly. Harry Smith was control inside down that right edge. The pass he put out to Matty Ashton, what a belter that was. Yeah, so George Williams 9, Harry Smith 8. Do you agree with those?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I thought Harry he's like metronomic, isn't he, with his way he goes about his business, but also just adds variety. So what I'm saying is he might kick to the same location in the pitch, but it's a different type of kick, and there's one kick where it was like a spiral, ball was spiralling down. Another kick was just, it made the play. It was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, wasn't it?
It made him look average, didn't he?
Yeah. So, brilliant. Agree with them.
Havard, I've give a 6, but he didn't play that many minutes. I think he probably got injured. He was only on for about 15 minutes or something, wasn't he? So, I've given him a 6, but only for that reason. Didn't do anything wrong. Darrell Clark, I've given him a 7. He wasn't as effective as he was last week, but he was still pretty solid. Matty Lees, I thought, was very good. I've given him an 8. He's just a wrecking ball, and he just took it to him all game, never took a backward step. John Bateman, I thought, had an improved performance on last week. I still thought he was quite lucky to make the side, to be honest with you. But Wayne went with him. I thought he had an improved performance. He was pretty good in defence. Pretty damn solid in defence, to be honest with you. He didn't do too much in attack, but it was straight and direct. Junior Ensemba, now I've given him a 7. He was all right.
Yeah.
But he had a decent break early on. He looked quite dangerous in attack, but then there was certain times I was watching him and I thought he looked a little bit lost. Not sure whether it's just he's not used to playing in the structure that England have, but like when he's playing for Wigan, he kind of looked very comfortable. I thought he looked a little out of depth.
Oh, I think he was perhaps, and I'm just literally, this is me assuming and surmising, is like, was shocked at the pace of the game. I mean, the game was so quick.
Yeah, it was.
And there was a time just before he came off and his hands were on his thighs, and he was breathing in like Billy big breaths, trying to get some oxygen into his body, and he was clearly taxed. So maybe that was part of the problem, but overall did a job. But I think we've got big expectations. He's a massive crowd favourite.
Yeah, I think you've got to remember it's literally his first season. It was his first international. I think everyone would sort of expect him just to set the world alight immediately. Well,
I think people want him to.
They do.
My thing with Junior Ensemba, like I said, he's a crowd favourite. He crosses those spheres where you've got like a favourite player in a team. Well, he crosses that. He crosses that boundary. Like other teams want him to do well for whatever reason. I don't know what this reason is.
He's quite a humble guy. That's why.
You think
not,
so?
Yeah, he's not arrogant or anything like that, is he? So I think he resonates with a lot of people. And I think that's why people want him to do well.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Victor Radley, I think he got injured as well, didn't he?
He was playing with an injury, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he went off and then he came back on. I've given him a 7. I thought he was all right. Did a job, didn't do anything wrong. Then in the interchanges, Mikey Lewis, I've given him a 7. Again, he comes on at hooker. It's not really his preferred position, is he? But he comes on and he does a job. I don't think he really offers much different to Darrell Clark, so that's something I think we've got to start looking at for England in future games. Morgan Knowles was very good. I've given him an 8. McMeekan, I've given him a 7. And Luke Thompson, I thought Luke Thompson was bloody brilliant. I've given him an 8, but
it's high 8.
High 8, yeah, nearly a 9. I thought Tomo played really well.
Yeah, so a couple of things I just want to pick out there. So first of all, you mentioned Michael Lewis. What does he bring? And I think what he might bring is some kind of psychological factor. Like, that Samoan team, that Samoan team would have looked at the team sheet there, and they'll know that what we've got here is an absolute firecracker of a player that can tear a game apart. And I think just his presence can make them switch on, especially when he's introduced late into a game. When they're already on the back foot, they're feeling, there's some big bodies there, feeling tired. All of a sudden, you've got Mikey Lewis coming on fresh, and you literally shit your pants.
But at hooker, I don't know if it works. I would have liked to have seen him. Look, it was kind of in the bag, that game, wasn't it? Sort of 3/4 into the game. By the time Mikey Lewis came on...
Well, we almost threw it away.
Yeah.
You know, we were like, we just kind of switched off a little bit towards the end.
We did switch off. We had the points on the board, though, didn't we, by that? I would have liked to see Mikey Lewis come on in the halves at that point, just to mix it up a little bit and see what else we could have thrown at Samoa.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think
I don't think it'll happen.
I think the partnership's cemented in now. Mike Lewis has got to find his way in or find a different position. Next thing I want to pick out, right? Imagine this: you're on the pitch, right, and all of a sudden you've got Morgan Knowles and Luke Thompson freaking running at you, right? And the passing and the accuracy, the speed of passing from Morgan Knowles as a big forward, to a juggernaut coming at you.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, Karl, this is your ball. You're having this. Absolutely.
Well, that's why England looks so good at the minute. We've got speed and size in the pack and strike force out wide, and it just looks like a really well-balanced England side. Like I said to you before, the Aussies, whenever we've played them in an Ashes, which we can start talking about now, thank God, they've always feared our forwards, but we have a different sort of pack these days. We've got some big guys, but we've got skillful players as well. And they're a little bit more mobile than we've ever used to have. And that links in really nicely with our backs. And we're playing a fast game, a really fast game. And I thought they were really good.
What about other aspects of the game, like discipline? What was your take on that? So there was a couple of penalties. One of note where John Bateman got from one angle, it looked like he just got hit by it was like a chest that collided with it. The other angle looked like he was actually looking to take his freaking head off. So what about England's discipline?
I thought England's discipline was really good. I thought...
Do you think that's an area that's let us down in the past, with that frustration?
Yeah, I think you could... It depends how far back you're going, but yeah, definitely. We've never been the most disciplined side, and we've always let teams back into games, haven't we, when we could have had teams finished off. But I thought England's discipline throughout the whole series has been pretty good. I mean, it's been way better than Samoa's. In a number of areas, in controlling the ruck, just silly penalties like offsides. I think Samoa probably think they were being a little bit hard done to with some of the refereeing decisions. I kind of think they might have a bit of a point with some of it. But yeah, England's discipline was good. I don't know what the actual penalty count was, but I think in both games they've been pretty decent.
Okay, one of the things we talked about last week was the attendance. So just over, I think there was like over 16,000 turned up for this, which is 1,000 more than this game in last year's series against Tonga. So that's a good move, and by all accounts, TV audiences was up as well. I did feel a little bit let down with I don't think it was the stewarding, but the ticket sales or whatever process that leads.
Allegedly, they oversold the South Stand again. The stewarding was pretty shocking, to be honest, wasn't it? So there was no one stopping you sort of saying, oh, well, you're in this section and you're in that section. The trouble with the South Stand is half seating, half standing. People who were meant to be in the standing section had nowhere to stand because it had been oversold. So they were going into the seating and then sitting in people's seats who had ticket numbers for the seats. Yeah, that was all a bit of a mess, really. But yet the West Stand had plenty of space, but they were trying to move people on into the West Stand when they bought a ticket for the South Stand, which costs more than the West Stand, so you can understand why they didn't want to move. Yeah, I thought the stewarding was a bit of a mess, to be honest with you.
Okay, that rounds that up then. So just before we move on, later on we're going to be talking about the jeering and cheering during the Civetau. So make sure you stick with us all the way to the end. We're going to discuss that in the Williams Weekly this week. Okay, so from rating the England players, we're going to move to a new area of untapped rugby league talent, and that's the area around Goole, which is obviously Goole, if you kept up with the news, are the latest inductees into the semi-professional ranks of rugby league.
And it's all incredibly exciting. We spoke to Mark Richardson, who's the chairman of Goole Vikings, just to get a bit of an update of how the club became a semi-professional club, how it all came about, a little bit about the signings and everything else that's going on, especially the really exciting thing is the new ground that's looking at being developed as well. So, yeah, here's that interview. Mark, I think we'll just we'll get into it, have a bit of a chat really about Goole Vikings, how it came about and, why you guys decided to go semi-professional, really. I think that's probably a good place to start.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I've, sort of been in and around rugby league for quite a few years as a fan and a sponsor of quite a few clubs. It's no secret I'm a Hull KR season ticket holder and platinum sponsor at the club. But I've also been involved with Midlands Hurricanes in the past, sponsorship and helping them out with the stadium move, and been involved in a few of the sort of amateur clubs around the area, such as sponsoring Skirler and some of the local football teams. So it was during sort of the time that I was travelling down to the Midlands, and I used to engage and take a lot of the players down with me coming out of Hull.
Yeah.
And we'd be driving down the motorway and we'd constantly be passing Goole, and we'd speak about the fact that there was an amateur club there, and would it be great for location wise if there was ever opportunity in the future that there could be a professional team running out of Goole. And then it probably a couple of months went by, and I'd been invited down actually to Goole Vikings to go and sponsor a couple of games with them through Andy Barras, who was the chairman of the Open Age team at the time, and Tony Whiteley, the club president. And got to know the guys really well over those couple of months. And obviously when you stood at a ground and you're looking around at what's happening, and you can see a potential somewhere. Sort of the stars started to align a little bit when, it was announced through the government that there was going to be a £25 million levelling up fund coming into Goole to improve the facilities in the local area. And then specifically that the £7 million had been allocated to upgrading the Victoria Pleasure Ground, which is the community stadium that's shared between Goole Vikings Open Age team, the 4 junior teams that we've got there, and also Goole AFC Football Club, as well as a couple of athletics clubs and some women's football teams. So, when you kind of start to look at it, everything sort of started and beginning to click in place. And then, of course, along came the announcement from the RFL that a place was going to be up for grabs, Willy Wonka golden ticket style. And this was, an opportunity for an amateur team to be able to go semi-pro and come into the pyramid structure. So, we all got round a table in Goole months and months ago, started to look at the infrastructure that we currently had, have a look at what we need to try and drive it forward and what were the missing parts to that. And that started to formalise itself in an actual business plan, which then obviously when the announcement came for the first stage of the process of applications, we were already in a pretty strong position that we'd been looking at this for quite a while. And we moved ahead with it, obviously, and, set to work on putting down the business case, the P&L, forecasts for the next 3 years, and then went through the actual process with the RFL of having the guys come down doing a ground visit, which, is kind of inconsequential because of the fact that we are getting the new stadium. But it was just to look at what we've currently got now. And then obviously we went through to the RFL along with 2 other clubs, Bedford and Anglia, who, I'd spoken to Rob and Robert all the way through the process as we were bouncing ideas from each other. And we went through that process, and fantastic news for the area in and around Goole and Goole itself that we got the green light and got the light.
Mark, you mentioned like the the development of the ground. What other factors do you think made you the obvious choice over Bedford and Anglian Vipers?
I think some of it came down to the infrastructure that we've already got. So from the fact that we were like Bedford and Anglia, we were already working in the amateur setup with an open age team, but also that we were able to demonstrate that we're trying to build an infrastructure below the professional team that will give a pathway through to professional sport. And we were able to do that, obviously, with the the justification of having the junior teams playing underneath us as well. When you look at Goole and obviously what's happening in and around Goole, Goole is booming at the minute. There is huge amounts of money coming into Goole in terms of government levelling up funds, but also huge businesses coming to the area. And when I say huge businesses, we're talking about people like Siemens, Croda, Asca Noble, Saint Gobain. There's a lot of big business coming into the town, and that's causing a huge shift in the infrastructure as well. So one of the well-known housing companies has just built 500 new homes in Goole, and I believe that there's a plan to try and extend now for another 800. So Goole as a town itself is actually growing and growing and growing, which gives us a great base to work off. And we already had that with the amateur setup as well. The open age team were recording attendance figures and being down at the ground seeing it myself. The amateur team were already recording anywhere between 250 to 500 people coming for special sponsored matches. So when you take that potential attendance there and compare it against some that are already in League One, we were already punching a little bit above some of the average attendance figures that you've got in the professional team. Now, when you put on top of that the location of Goole in proximity to other professional teams, so if you put a pin in Goole and draw a 20-kilometre circle around it, within that area, you've got a population of about 383,000 people with no other professional sports team, because as you look at the map, this 20-kilometre circle doesn't touch Hull, it doesn't touch York, it just breaks into Scunthorpe, but it's still north of Doncaster, and it's still east of Castleford as well, and Leeds. So we've got, a massive opportunity, not just within Goole, but within North Yorkshire, even down into South Yorkshire, and importantly as well, crossing over the border into North Lincolnshire, where there is a very small rugby league presence there that we're hoping we can help build on as well. And then, of course, when you start to look at the playing side of it, where are we going to get players from? Being in that radius, we're smack bang in the centre of 4 or 5 Super League clubs, 6 or 7 Championship clubs, and 1 or 2 League One clubs. So, I think when you add all of that together, it puts us in a position where we were able to argue that whilst it's a very short time frame in putting a club together, we would be able to do it and actually potentially be competitive at the same time as well, without scrabbling around for support or for a club infrastructure and for a playing team as well within that.
Mark, it all sounds incredibly positive. You touched on the open age side just a little there. I've noticed the Scott Taylor's sort of squad that he's assembling this year. It's a bit of a mix of sort of, well, you've got ex-England internationals in there, bit of Super League talent. You're also giving a bit of a lifeline to some of these community players, aren't you?
Certainly, and I mean, what a squad that's being built as well. This is the inaugural season. As you've mentioned, here's your first big acquisition. We've brought Scott Taylor into his first head coaching role in League One. An ex-England international himself. What an amazing signing that is for the club. And I know Scott is really looking forward to going out there and making his stamp on the coaching world. But you're right, the first thing that we're pushing with the Goole Vikings is that this is a community project. We are trying to invest in rugby league and give people the opportunity to come through and turn professional. So it was important for us that the first couple of signings we made were true to what we set out to be, because it would be quite easy to just go and fill the squad with regular well-known people. But we were adamant that we want to see that progression coming through. We want people to come and play in open age and have a shot at moving into the pro ranks. So ironically, the first signing we made was Tom Halliday from Doncaster, who actually is a Goole lad, lives in Goole, works in Goole, and had actually signed for the open age team last season on a dual registration. And when Tom came along and played his first couple of games at open age, we knew we were onto something because the crowd doubled and we were getting people coming from other clubs to come and watch Tom. Obviously, within that open age, there's a great bunch of lads, and I give them a huge amount of credit for what they've achieved this year under Kevin, who has moved into the coaching ranks with us underneath Scott. So kudos to Kevin Marshall, who was our open age coach last year and is now our assistant coach under Scott. He's done a great job over the last 2 years of developing that open age team to a point where, unfortunately, we had a couple of players actually retire that we were considering for the pro ranks. But one of the standout players that we've had over the season was Ben Hodder. And we were so keen to make sure that we could bring Ben into the pro team and develop his talent, and get him on the pitch and show there is a pathway in Goole if you want to come and progress to the pro ranks.
Yeah, I think you mentioned there that when you signed Tom that you saw an uplift in the crowd. Do you expect a similar kind of thing with Jamie Shaw, Brett Ferris, a couple of the players that you got there?
I would certainly hope so, because if bearing in mind that Jamie did retire from rugby league, has been playing rugby union for the last couple of years, but has now come back to league, and I know he's raring to go as well, got his love back for the sport, that if people don't want to come down to the VPG to see Jamie Shaw, 100 tries in Super League, ex-Challenge Cup winner, being coached by an ex-England international, 2 times grand final winner, Brett Ferris, ex-England international, from the red and white half of the city, you've got Thomas Mins coming into the squad. We've got some players there that have developed at clubs and moved on in their careers, but we're now managing to pull them all back together to create what we hope is going to be something that really draws people in. And we've had loads of positive messages over the last sort of month and a half. Ironically, we were, myself and the vice chairman, we were at the England match on Saturday, and we were wearing our Goole Vikings gear. We were getting stopped as we were walking through the stadium with people congratulating us and telling us that they were going to definitely come down and watch us, because when you look at the squad we're building, we're not aligning to anyone in particular. We are taking the best of the talent that is available to us, and we're taking that from all across the region, and that is capturing the imagination of other fans. So, the angle we're trying to go at is, whilst yes, we are our own club, there's also an opportunity here for a bit like in football where you can adopt and have a second team, and we are, hoping and pushing that people will adopt us as their second team, and if they are available on a weekend where they've gone and watched their own club and they're kicking their heels as to what to do, get yourselves down to the VPG and come and watch some talented players.
Mark, just interested, how are season tickets going at the minute?
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, if you think we only officially launched the club in a media presentation conference on the 1st of October, we didn't put season tickets on sale until the 5th of October. So we've only been going 4 weeks now, and season ticket sales have been going very, very well. And the interesting thing is the locations of where people are buying season tickets from as well. So as you can imagine, we've got people taking up season tickets from inside Goole, from literally the streets surrounding the ground. We've got season ticket holders coming through from Hull, as far out as Grimsby. And we've also had season ticket holders sign up from Grimesthorpe in West Yorkshire as well. So it is capturing the imagination of those sat outside of the Goole town itself into the surrounding areas. So very, very positive, very positive. And look, we've got, another three months to go before the season starts. And again, we appreciate that people are out there purchasing their Super League season tickets and so on and so forth. But for us, the season ticket sales are coming through strong at the minute. So I'd advise people to get them while they can, because next season we are going to be working under a small bit of construction in the ground, which is going to have an impact on our normal 3,000 capacity. But get them in now while you can, so that you don't miss out on the opportunity if and when we do need to put a cap on the attendance at the games.
I just want to thank you for spending a bit of time with us this morning, just explaining all this. You give a bit of depth and some meat on the bones of a story that we've been kind of following. And I think a lot of people have been following, with the application process to join League One. I just want to wish you the best of luck for the start of the season. Karl and I are both hoping to get there and to take in a couple of games.
Well, you're more than welcome to come down as our guest, and maybe you can even do one of your podcasts direct from a game, get out amongst the fans, and we're more than happy to have you down and be a part of the Vikings conquest of East Yorkshire.
Mark, sounds brilliant. Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Mark, just quickly, I was talking to RFL at the weekend, actually. Is the Challenge Cup, does it sound like it's going to be taking place at your place? Have you heard that?
It is. Yeah, it was announced on BBC. Yeah, so
right.
they're going to be coming down to. We've not sorted the location yet, because we're not sure about doing it inside the ground with the construction works. But yes, they are doing it from Goole, purely because we are the newest club. So we're going to feature quite interestingly in that draw.
Yeah.
But also as well because our little junior Vikings did lead out the England squad at the weekend as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it got confirmed, I think, round about the 62nd minute. I didn't hear it because I was in the ground watching the game.
Right, we're gonna crack straight on. So, as the saying goes, location. The next story we want to talk about with the Ashes test for next year on the horizon. Where is the best place to hold these tests? Karl, you dug into this story.
Yep, Sydney. No, I mean, we are sat here recording this. We don't actually know where the Ashes are going to be held. I mean, it was originally in Australia, wasn't it? And then the Aussies have sort of said, actually, we wouldn't mind coming to Britain. So we all got a bit excited. And then we had a little bit of information this weekend, didn't we, Craig? It might be back in Australia again. But anyway, we're still hedging our bets that we might get it on our shores. And we've gone through and we've picked our perfect 3 grounds for the Ashes series, haven't we?
Well, this is on the back of Sean Wayne's little comments. So he announced sort of through, I think it was Serious About Rugby League, that his location. Well, he made a joke, didn't he, saying, "Well, all 3 in Wigan be ideal," and that's typical Sean Wayne.
No. He wanted one in Bolton, mate, as well.
No, his joke was all 3 in Wigan to be ideal. And he then went on to say,
I want one in Wigan, one in Bolton.
One in Wigan at the Brick Community Stadium, one in Bolton, and then potentially Ellen Road.
All right, I thought maybe we were going to say I might stretch to Blackburn or something like that.
Yeah, he might as well have done. So anyway, like you said, we come up with this idea of coming up, like, what would our ideal locations be and why?
And who's going first? Am I going first? Are you going first?
Camera's on you, mate. Camera's on you.
Right. Okay.
Should we go one for one? Where should be the first? Where should the first test be?
Right. I'm going Wembley first test.
First test Wembley.
Yeah. First test Wembley.
Right, that is out the box. Why?
People have been waiting for this fixture for. I can't even remember the last time that we had an Ashes series. People have been waiting for this fixture for so long. They will go to Wembley for the first test. Guarantee it.
You think is that going to be? You don't think it's going to build up to a massive finish?
No, because I think if you had Wembley as like the third test, say, England could be 2-0 up by that point. So
England will be 2-0 up by.
England will be 2-0 up by that point. So it may not sell as well. But first game is first time we've had the Aussies on English shore for a long time. Yeah, I'd go Wembley. Game 1. Let's get 50,000-60,000 in there.
No, I think you've got it wrong.
Right.
I think that big game finish is down in London, where all the Aussies and Kiwis are living. You know what I mean? And
right,
potentially get a massive opposition crowd in Wembley. Anyway, so my first pick is the newly built Everton Park. on the
know
Liverpool water park.
I didn't think of that, to be fair.
So my reason being is it's a brand new stadium, right? So people will want to go and have a look at that stadium anyway. So as it stands at the minute, like no sport has taken place there at all. It's literally brand new, and it's massive. 52,000, nearly 53,000. It's huge. So I think that'll be a really exciting location. Smack banging in Liverpool, you're literally falling out onto Liverpool waterfront, into town, get leathered. What an amazing weekend.
Yeah, you made a pretty good point there.
All right, okay, so on to game 2 then. What you said about
I've got a proper curveball here.
Have you?
Complete curveball.
Go on then.
Game 2, it's got to be in the Midlands, hasn't it?
For me and you.
Well,
so we can just roll out of bed and then...
Yeah, I mean, where else is there such a growing podcast, rugby league podcast? In Wolverhampton, obviously. I would play game 2 at the Molyneux in Wolverhampton.
What, 5 minutes from this studio?
Yeah.
What are your reasons for that then? Why are you saying
no,
that?
there is some logic. Some
I
logic.
know, but that yellow
I've got
disgusting, isn't it?
Yeah, I've gone one ground up north. I've gone one ground down south. I thought, well, let's meet in the middle. Let's have something in the Midlands. Why not?
Right, you're getting shit for this. Right,
and it's not too far away from your Lancashire clubs. It's only an hour or so down motorway. It holds 32,000. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's perfect for game 2.
I disagree.
I knew you would.
Shocker. Right, as much as it pains me,
I picked that one as a bit of a
curveball. Yeah. Right, I think you're right in like building up to a big final, but I think so. We've had one in Merseyside. Right, I think one has to be in Yorkshire. Game 2 has to be in Yorkshire.
Yeah,
and it pains me a little bit because I don't think it's the best stadium. Like you and I have made our thoughts on this stadium known in the past. I think it's got to be Ellen Road.
No, come off,
it's got to be Ellen Road. But I tell you why. It's the 12th biggest stadium in the country, right?
Someone's been on Google.
Yeah, chat GPT. But also, so we've gone from a hotbed of rugby league in the west of the country. Right now we're going to put it straight in the middle of a hotbed of rugby league in the east of the country, right? In predominantly Yorkshire. It's got to be Ellen Road. Other stadiums might be like Bramall Road,
Bramall Lane,
Bramall Crescent, Bramall. No, I think it's got to be there. If I'm honest, Henley's too small. We know that. I think it's got to be Ellen Road.
But it's awful.
Yeah.
Ellen Road is absolutely awful.
No, but I started this by saying location, and it's just perfectly placed, central in Yorkshire. Like there's nowhere else it can be. Well, Hull FC, it could be at Hull FC, but who the hell is going to go? Who's going to go to Hull? Like more people will travel to Wolverhampton. They will. Okay, that leads on to game 3. Then where's the test finale?
Well, I am going to Leeds, but I'm going to pick a more sensible option, Craig.
What?
Headingley.
Headingley's too small.
It'd be absolutely brilliant. I tell you what you could do, right? Have game 1 at Headingley, right? So it sells out. No one can get in there. Game 2 at Wembley. So everybody wants to go.
Where game 3 then?
Well, Molyneux, obviously.
God's sake. You're not even taking this serious. For me, game 3 got to be Wembley. It's got to be Wembley, hoping that it could be like the test. Hopefully, by that time, we've got an Aussie win, an England win, and we're going for a test decider.
Yeah, but there's putting a lot of hope in that. It could be 2-0 at that point.
Mate, we're hoping the the Ashes is going to be in this country. this whole segment is based on hope.
I think you've got to have one Rugby League Heartlands. You've got to have one in London, whether that's Wembley or Tottenham Hotspur's Stadium or maybe Arsenal. One's got to be in London. One's got to be up north. I think you got to put one somewhere in the middle. So it's either
trying to develop it.
Yeah, like Leicester Leicester is not a bad shout actually, or one of the Birmingham grounds, Aston Villa or something like that. I think you need one in the middle. I was taking a piss a little bit with Molyneux, but I generally think one in the Midlands would work. Okay, really keen to hear what your take on this is. Where would you have the 3 tests and what order? Obviously, a little bit tongue in cheek in some parts, but also some serious things to consider as well. And you've got to kind of work out like some of these traditional rugby league stadiums, like Headingley, for example, amazing stadium, but potentially it's going to be too small. I mean, it was packed for the England international at the weekend. In fact, we did the old seat roulette where we got moved 2 or 3 times. We
overselling tickets and stuff.
Yeah, I think we've got to be ambitious for Ashes. I think we go with one ground that we know we're going to sell out, one that's in between, and then one of the big stadiums in London. I think that's what my thinking was on that.
Okay, sticking with International Rugby League and now a little bit of French rugby.
We're going to check in with our French correspondent, Liam Duffy, who we had on a couple of weeks ago. He was talking all things French Rugby League. Now, the season's 6 weeks in, so here's a bit of an update on the results and the scores. Liam, we'll dive into it, mate. If you could, how's the French division going this year? Who are the top runners? Who are the teams to keep an eye on at the minute?
Yeah, so still quite early in the season, and I think we're in this kind of weird period where like everybody's trying to figure out where everybody else is at.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening is it's shaping up to be like a fairly even competition where a lot of teams can take points off other teams at any given time. So there's been some quite interesting results this weekend. I don't know them off by heart, so hold on, let me just get them up. So Villefranche, who are they were newly promoted from Elite 2. Just last season they won Elite 2. They actually beat Limoux at Limoux. And Limoux have always been one of the top teams over the last few years.
Yes.
So that result would have kind of raised a few eyebrows. Saint-Estève, I think last time we mentioned that Saint-Estève is the reserve of Catalan Dragons. Traditionally over the last few seasons, been a bit more of a youth development project. But they're kind of, I think I mentioned that this year they look like they're actually going to be a pretty powerful contender. They beat Albi, who were last season's finalists, lost to Carcassonne in the final. They beat Albi at Albi, which is no mean feat. Interesting results on that front. And then Avignon have had a really rocky start to the season, kind of circumstances out of their control, really, like not stuff on the field. They put up probably the strongest performance anyone has put in against Carcassonne so far this year. Carcassonne look like there's quite a big bit of daylight between them and every other team, but Avignon really took it to them at home and just very narrowly lost. So that was a really interesting one. So yeah, it's just you never really know what the results are going to be at the moment, which obviously is a good thing.
So you got Carcassonne all wins so far, and then at the other end of the table, Toulouse Elite have lost every game so far. What's the story there with Toulouse Elite?
I saw them play recently. They're not a bad team. They're quite a young team. I think that's probably part of it. I think I mentioned last time we spoke that Elite 1 is a very physical competition. There's some really big guys knocking around. So I think maybe they're lacking a little bit on the physicality stake. Having it, and that's probably the same reason that maybe Saint-Estève, the Dragons reserve, weren't quite as competitive like in recent years as they are this year. Is you got younger players who are still developing, going up against guys who, fully developed adult human beings who have got several years of experience under their belt playing at a very good level. So I think that's probably part of it. They haven't won a game yet, but they're still, they're not a bad team by any means.
I saw some of the photos of the crowds this weekend. Are the crowds up? It looked like there was a really decent crowd at one of the games.
Oh, I don't know actually. Which game was that you?
I think it might have been Carcassonne actually. I think it was one of their home games. There was a photograph going around on Twitter this week. And yeah, it looked like a really healthy crowd.
If it was, that wouldn't have been this weekend because they were at Avignon. But it wouldn't surprise me if Carcassonne are doing really well crowds-wise. Like I said, they're a very, very impressive team. They've got some, sprinkling of players in there who are really super league quality, to be honest.
Yeah.
And they're very professional, very, very professional in their approach. They do the kind of I guess what you could uncharitably call like the NRL kind of conservative approach really well, which like some French teams have struggled with, that kind of get through your sets, kick to the corners and make it really hard for the other team to get out of trouble. Carcassonne are really, really good at that, got a good kicking game, got a good kick chase. So, I think over the years that's some things that like some French teams have struggled with is like that patient, more conservative approach. Not to be stereotypical, but Carcassonne are smashing it on that front. So it wouldn't surprise me if their crowds are up.
So just looking forward to the next couple of weeks, next couple of rounds, Liam, what exciting games are coming up? What's the games to kind of watch out for?
Hang on, let's have a look. I'll look at the features. We've got Lesignan Albi, so that's like a fairly local derby. Like I said, both of those teams, like it's kind of hard to see where they're at relative to last year. Lesignan and Albi last year's finalists, but Lesignan have traditionally been very strong over the last few seasons, so that'll be a really, really good one. Pia versus Avignon. So Pia came up from Elite 2 a couple of seasons ago, but have really basically earned their spot in Elite 1 in the time that they've been in there and had some real quality. They had Dean Farre, the former New Zealand international, playing for them for a little while. So they're hosting Avignon. It'd be very interesting to see how Avignon get on after putting in such a kind of physical and emotionally charged performance against Carcassonne. I think it can go one of two ways. You can either carry on doing that and use that to bolster your confidence, or you've really expended all of your kind of emotional energy into that performance. So it'd be very, very interesting to see that.
Thanks for the update on the French division at the minute. I just want to ask you a bit. There's a bit of a debate going on in the UK at the minute. Obviously, the War of the Roses is looking like it could be coming back. I think IMG have sort of thrown their weight behind it. I think Sean Wayne at the weekend said he would like to see it happen to develop England. If that takes place, there's a chance that the England-France game may not happen next year. Do you think that's going to be sort of damaging for the development of French Rugby League?
Oh, I don't know. I've got kind of mixed feelings on all of this. Obviously, I'm very, very fond of French Rugby League, but I don't know. I look at the fixture, the most recent one that happened in Toulouse, France v England, and I just wonder what either team is getting out of it. To be honest,
yeah.
It just that France are not bad, but they're not really competitive fixtures. I mean, this is probably going to make me no friends, but like it was a shambles in terms of its organisation. Like it was just, there's a reason that NFL manages to pack out stadiums in the UK is that like it gives people the sense that like this is something that you need to be at. And when you see like a lackluster international in the middle of the year with like very sparse stands, just really poorly organised, I don't see how that helps the game in its current format. I'm not saying, I'd love the authorities to come out, prove me wrong, and put on an absolute showpiece event, but I just don't have faith of that happening. And then that's kind of where my thinking is on like the Yorkshire v Lancashire as well. Is like, yeah, I think it could be a really good thing if done right. I just don't have tremendous faith in the governing bodies to do it right. To be honest, I can picture it. I can picture one of the games being in the Halliwell Jones Stadium with like half full, zero atmosphere, just because there's been no, sorry to be too critical, but I just don't see that the governing body knows how to build any hype around a fixture at the moment. So I'm curious. I would be open to it returning, but just please, it needs to be done right. It cannot be this afterthought in terms of promotion.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make there, and I wonder if an England Knights side playing France would be kind of a better for both teams. Maybe to develop some strength or some depth in the England setup, and then also give France a credible opponent as well.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, almost kind of what you see with the Australian Prime Minister's 13, right? Play like Fiji or Papua New Guinea. Yeah. Give people a chance to really muscle their way into an England, a full England jersey. I mean, yeah, potentially. But like I said, so much of this rests on the governing bodies of both countries, and I just think when you put on an England v France game or England v Samoa, you have some of the best athletes in the world of any sport. Their skill level is unbelievable. What they put their bodies through is unbelievable, and I just think they're being shortchanged. I don't think their sacrifice and their commitment is being fairly recognised by governing bodies that are incapable of filling a stadium. These guys need to have thousands and thousands of eyeballs on them, and they don't at the moment. And it's just a shocker. It's a shame, really. So I just think I'm curious about all these fixtures. I want more international rugby league. I want more representative fixtures. I'd love to see a really cool and good Yorkshire v Lancashire, but I'm just so low on confidence in the governing bodies at the moment, and I don't think I'm alone. I think the kind of struggle to get attendances for internationals is kind of shows a lack of confidence from fans not in the players, but in these fixtures and the way they're run.
Liam, it's been great to catch up with you again, mate. Really appreciate it.
Okay, we're going to move on to tackle 5. This is quite an interesting one for me. All right, so we've got for the first time our little tipster, our little secret mole in the world of betting on to give us his tips on the upcoming Australia-Tonga match.
Yeah, this is the sniper. Even I don't know his name. He won't. He won't share any information, but he has brought up some incredible tips for this week's massive international between Tonga and Australia, and it's an incredibly insightful interview, I thought.
During this interview, he's obviously going to give lots of background information about the match. He really digs deep into the analysis of it all. This is his bread and butter. This is how he makes his money. And speaking of money, he also presents a couple of opportunities for you to make a bit of money. So this is a potential partnership that we'll be doing as we move forward. He's basically going to give you 2 tips for this up-and-coming game. First one being what he's called the banker. It's almost assured money. Get it in your pocket. It's more than likely going to happen. And for those that are a little bit less risk averse, is that the word? A bit more risk averse?
More risk averse.
Whatever it is, okay? Those that are like willing to have a really good gamble, he'll give you a flyer. Okay, so this is something where you could potentially turn your £5 into £100. So listen in, it's really interesting.
Right, we've got the sniper on the line, who is a NRL tipping expert. So, Tonga v Australia this week. What do you think we can expect from this week's game?
Massive game, massive final. It's not what we were expecting. We were expecting New Zealand there.
Yeah.
But Tonga nicked it with a couple of minutes to go with that Katoa field goal. So we've ended up with Australia-Tonga. Now, that game takes place at Combank in Sydney, and we've got a 50% chance of rain. So obviously this is an early forecast because we're recording early in the week.
Yeah.
Australia won the fixture 18-0 a couple of weeks ago. Tonga were impressive last time, but they were looking pretty gassed with about half an hour to go. Did you see the game?
Yes, I did. Yes. It was one of the best international games I've watched for a very long time. I thought it was incredibly exciting.
How good. Yeah, it was brilliant. The question is, can they repeat it, or have they had their final? Now, we think that was probably their final, and they're going to really struggle to get up for Australia, who've had a week off.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at the betting markets, we've seen a move for Australia over the last 24 hours. They were minus 16.5 point favourites. They're now minus 18.5 point favourites. They'll probably close around minus 20 by kickoff. So they are hugely, hugely favoured. In terms of betting, I think the best angle for us to explore is to grow that Christmas kitty if you want to buy some socks or a scarf or, I don't know, an Oyster card for your loved one or whatever. We want to look at that Tongan left side defence where you've got Moses Suli and Lolohea. We saw in the previous game that both centres really ripped Tonga to shreds, and that was Tommy Turbo on the right and the Hammer on the left. And the wingers barely got any ball. So in terms of our banker selection for this weekend, we're happy to take Tommy Turbo, anytime scorer, against Tonga. The odds haven't been released yet, but we expect him to open around even money. So guys, you want to take that early price, because he'll be significantly shorter by the weekend.
Right.
And he scored twice against Tonga last game as well, almost crossed for 3. So that's our banker. We've got something else for you guys as well. And this is based on the game not being as exciting as everyone thinks. So we've got the flyer, and the flyer is Tonga under 10.5 points, under 32.5 match points, and Australia to win both halves. That pays 7-1 on Bet365, and we'll put these in the show notes for you guys, so that you can come back to them if you're listening to the show a bit later on. So Tonga under 10.5 points, under 32.5 match points, Australia to win both halves. Other stuff that might be worth thinking about is the Hammer. Now, the issue we have with him here is that he's playing off Tom Dearden, and Tom Dearden can be a bit of a bullhog. So we're not sure how much ball he's going to get.
Yeah.
Cam Murray's out injured, so we're expecting Hudson Young to come straight in for him. He obviously plays for Canberra, and he's got a decent chance of scoring as well. So keep an eye out for grubbers through the lines for Hudson Young. If you like him, he'll probably open at about 3-1. So not bad value there. But our official selections, Tommy Turbo, anytime scorer, around even money, and the bet builder, which we just spoke about. That's pretty much it. Any questions about this game, guys?
Well, I've got a bit of a question, but it's a little bit outside the box, really. Listening to you speak, incredibly, interesting. You put a lot of depth on a game. I think people quite often look at a game and go, all right, who's going to win here? But you've put a lot of depth, analysing the weather and all that kind of thing. How much, from your experience, how much excitement is there about this game?
In Australia and New Zealand, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
It's not as big as it would have been if it was Australia and New Zealand. But, if you look at the Pacific Islands, interest there is massive. And with the new team being spoken about for Papua New Guinea, the island is completely mad for rugby league. So in terms of niche markets that are growing, it's huge. And viewing figures have been higher than they ever have been for the Pacific Championships. I think there will be a lot of interest in Tonga with the sort of David and Goliath story. Can they sort of topple Australia? Australia are a little bit weaker than they normally are. There's no Cleary playing. They've got a few other major outs. They looked a bit ragged the first game, a little bit undercooked. So, yeah, I think it is massive. Yeah, it's really exciting.
So if anybody wants to sort of place a bet or they want more tips from you, where can they find you?
The best place to go, guys, is if you go to our link tree, you'll find that link in the show notes. It'll be linktree /the Snipers Club. Click on that. You can find access to all our socials. Click on member access there if you'd like to join up or have a look around. And there's also a Discord button if you'd like to have a look around our free sections on the Discord. So that's the best place to look. We're on all the usual social media channels, Twitter, TikTok, and everything else. So, yeah, hopefully we'll see you soon. Let's get the Christmas kitty going, guys.
Perfect. Craig, incredibly insightful. Links are down below if you want to take advantage of his services. There will also be a bit of a promo code in there you can drop in there to let you know that the Rugby League Outsiders have sent you over to the Sniper. Yeah, I thought it was incredibly exciting, that.
Yeah, by the way, if you do that, we do get a bit of a kickback, which helps keep the channel going and helps to grow the channel. So that's that. It was, in fact, the fact that he started off analysing the weather. I'm like, fucking hell, I didn't even think about the weather. You know what I mean? I didn't even think about the weather. No. And then, just this idea of player combinations. Quite often we look at players in isolation. You sort of think, oh, right, the Hammer's here, Tommy Turbo's here and all that kind of, but thinking about the edges. You know what I mean? As like a unit. Yeah,
the lefts and the rights. A lot of tipsters split them, don't the left and right, and they want to know what the matchups are. I suppose we don't really think as in-depth as that. But yeah, I tell you, the only time I ever thought about the weather when a rugby league game were going on, and it was when New Zealand were playing Scotland in the World Cup over here, and they played it at Workington. And I was like, right, this is the only leveller that Scotland have got to potentially turn them over in this game. And it were really tight, wasn't it? Did they do it, Scotland, against New Zealand?
I don't know. I can't remember.
If they didn't, there were only a point or two in it. I remember it was an absolute bog track at Workington.
All right. There's a really exciting game. If you're going to watch it, who's your money on? I'm going to say that. Who do you think's going to win? Do you think Australia will just romp on? Do you think Tonga has got a chance? Stick your comments down below and let us know. Right, we're going to move on to tackle number 6 and the Williams Weekly. So at the weekend, we've already kind of teed this up a little bit. At the weekend, obviously, Samoa went on and they performed the Tivitau before the game. And it was very subdued compared to the first test.
Bricked it, didn't they?
England definitely dominated the halfway line. You commented it straight away like that. We've won already. Freaking, we're all over the halfway line. We're not giving them any ground. However, it's what happened during that I want to talk about. So during the Tivitau, there was lots of cheering and jeering in the old Oceanic Island. I won't even try it because one, it'll blow your ears out, and two, I can't do it. They started doing the jeering and what have you. Now, at the time, I just thought this was a spattering of Samoan fans.
That were my take on it. That's genuinely what I thought. I thought it was Samoan fans just sort of
doing a war cry, or something like that.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of the Tivitau to really to call it out, but I thought it was Samoan fans.
Yeah, and anyway, there is a suggestion, or maybe I don't know where this information's come from, that it was actually English fans jeering, like, you know, and giving it a bit. Now, my question, so whether it is, whether it isn't, I don't know. But what I'm saying is it right or is it wrong to react like that to this traditional war dance? Is it a lack of respect for fans to be jeering and shouting during this moment? And well, that's it. That's the question I've got.
It's a difficult one to answer this, and I could really dig myself into a massive hole, couldn't I, if I say one way or another?
Well, just say what you think.
I think it's. I think it's to provoke a bit of a reaction anyway. To be honest with you, and it's essentially a war dance, isn't it? So, I mean, I should have done more research on this before we dived into it. No, I don't think. I think like booing, like if you're booing on a national anthem, I believe that's. I don't think that's right.
No,
this isn't a national anthem. I believe it's like a war cry. So I don't think so. I don't think it would be disrespectful. I mean, we should be speaking to somebody Samoan really and getting a balanced answer. I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean. So, I think for a lot, I think it's a very poignant moment in rugby league. Well, in any sport, you know, when you get like the haka, the civetau, I can't remember what the other one's called from Tonga, and you know, we all stand and we watch it. But I don't remember seeing a rule where it's like, right, you can't make a noise.
Yeah,
you can't react to it. You know, you should sit there and just take it on the chin. I mean, that's a very British thing to do. You know, it's just like, you know, stiff upper lip it and just. You know, ignore it. But no, I don't know. I think on the same token, though, I also think that if everybody was jeering and booing, it would lose that. You know what I mean? It'd be too much kind of jeering.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one, really.
I'll go back to England's response in game one, where they stood on the halfway line, didn't want to give them an inch. I think Tompkins spoke about it in the pre-game presser. And he was like, "Yeah, we don't want to give them an inch. We're respectful to give them half of the field, but this is our half, and we're defending it at all costs." And Mikey Lewis, and there was head to head, weren't there, in game one? I think it sells the sport, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
things like the civetau and the haka, and you know, they are some of the best parts of international rugby league, and it really did sell the sport, and I don't think that England were disrespectful.
Can I just ask you another question? I know Samoa is like part of the Commonwealth and all that. So we had the Remembrance Day 2-minute silence before that. What would have happened if like a Samoan fan started jeering during the 2-minute silence for Remembrance Day? Or is that something completely different?
I actually think, I think it's something completely different. I may be wrong, and I don't know enough about it, but I would say that I would say is disrespectful, and I think most people know when you've been told it's a minute's silence, it's a minute's silence. But we've never been told as a crowd, people watching it, that while a hacker's taking place or a civetau, or that you need to be silent. I think it's there to provoke a reaction, and so I don't think we need to be silent during it.
It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
People are generally quite quiet, aren't they? Because
we take it in. It's a spectacle to watch.
It is. Yeah,
can you imagine experiencing it? Do you know what I mean? I mean, you could see how Mikey Lewis got caught up. He was in the zone. He was like, I ain't budging. You know what I mean? And so... do you know what I thought about it this weekend when we watched it? You've already spoke about it, but I thought psychologically England had already won that game as soon as I watched it, because they didn't make the presence felt to England like they did in game one. They didn't go head to head, and it kind of felt like they'd backed off a little bit. Well, they did back off a little bit, didn't they? And listening to the BBC commentary team, I think Robbie Hunter-Paul sort of said they put too much emotion into it in game one. They wanted to be a bit more relaxed going into it. But I was expecting fireworks in game two, and it kind of just felt like they relaxed a bit too much, and then England took control of the game really once we got going. I know Samoa scored first, but I think England were way too strong. Right. Well, we're going to leave it there, but I'm genuinely interested in what your take on this. So, do you think that we should remain silent and that is a mark of respect for the Civetau, the haka, any other sort of traditional war dances that the Pacific Ocean islands bring? Or do you think that we can have a bit of jeering and stuff in there? We'll be interesting to take that poll and see what the results are. Any final words, Karl?
Our Patreon membership is open. We've got a couple of people who've already signed up to it. Craig, what people getting if they sign up to our Patreon membership?
They're helping us grow, if I'm honest. And I know that's it sounds a bit of a cop out right now, but we aim to provide something that's we think is missing in the world of rugby league, and that is high quality, fan orientated news and stories from outside the traditional heartland, stories that other media outlets maybe won't put as much weight on. If that's something that you value, and if you like me taking the piss out of Karl and Karl taking the piss out of me, then we need to keep this channel going, and it does take up resources, and just by becoming a Patreon member, it really does help us out. As does, joining the Sniper Club and all that kind of stuff. So thanks to the people that have already signed up.
Yeah, and we will be putting a bit of a backstage behind the scenes video together, won't we? Which will be just for our members who can get a little bit of a look of how we put all this together, from the news and the sound booth and all the rest of it. So yeah, you will get some exclusive perks as well thrown in there.
Okay, so until next week,